Welcome to the Vital Point podcast. I had expected to release a very special conversation that I had with my mom this week. Unfortunately, it's taking more time to edit than I had expected. So instead, please enjoy this solo episode that I recorded recently while I was taking a little break on my breathwork retreat. And this is just a stream of consciousness that I had about tips to improve and deepen your meditation practice. Mindfulness meditation has been a very big part of Blue Magic Alchemy this year. Not only is it a foundation of my practice and something that I recommend to all my clients, it's something that we've been exploring and working on together within the community. So we just finished up a 14-day meditation group experience. And at the beginning of April, I'm going to be starting the Path of Meditation, a guided 30-day course that really explores not only how to begin a meditation practice, but just dives into my own experience that I've had over the course of a couple of decades. So not only starting a meditation practice, but also diving into Zen, the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, as well as bhakti, yoga, and some compassion practices. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. It's been something I've been planning for the last couple of years, and the school community has really given me the opportunity to just jump online live every day. And after 30 days of live meditations, we'll have a course. So that's going to be available to everyone that's a member of the school community. So go ahead and join that at school.com/Blue Magic Alchemy. There's going to be a optional microdosing sort of support to that. You don't have to microdose to meditate, but I've found that there's a lot of synergy between the two practices. So maybe just start thinking about that and definitely come to the Blue Magic Alchemy school community to learn more. Again, that's starting at the beginning of April. So as I continue to edit this cool conversation with my mom, please enjoy this episode. When it comes to your inner journey of personal development, no matter the method you use, the vital point is to practice. If you're ready to transform your life and live with clarity, connection, and wholeness, then you're in the right place. Welcome back to The Vital Point. I'm your host, Jonathan Schecter. I'm a breathwork facilitator and integration coach. I'm also a human. The goal of this show is to inspire you to take action for yourself, whether you're taking the first step on your journey of healing and self-discovery, or you're already a seasoned traveler. The truth is, you have the capacity to evolve, to transform and bring your intentions and dreams into the world, and there's never been more access to so many incredible modalities that can help you on your journey. This podcast will help you learn simple methods you can use to change your life with guided practices and interviews with practitioners who are doing the work. I want you to feel confident and inspired to take the next step on your own pathway to integration and wholeness, because the answer is found in the action. That's the vital point. So take a deep breath and let's drop in. On today's solo episode, I wanted to share some tips for meditation. I'm not a meditation master, but I have been practicing for 22 years, and a few of those years, the first few, and the last 8 years, I have practiced every day. So I wanted to just share some of what I've learned in that time. And this is especially on my mind because right now in the Blue Magic Alchemy school community, we're doing a 14-day group meditation experience, commitment to practice. And all of that content lives on the school site, which is free to join. So even if you're listening to this a year from now, 2 years, 5 years, you can still go there and join the activity and share your wins, get supported. It's a great way to start building a meditation habit. 14 days is, if you meditate for 14 days in a row, you're well on your way to meditating every day. And meditating every day is something that has completely transformed my life. It's the foundation of my own self-care and wellness practice. And it's what really got me onto this whole path.
Not to mention the benefits that it has for working with psychedelics. I mean, I could just go on and on and on about the benefits of meditation. But all that to say, just do it, be like Nike. And I work with a lot of people that are new to meditation. And, I tend not to sugarcoat it. Like when you're new to this practice, it is not the easiest thing to do. And oftentimes people think that they're doing it wrong. That discourages them. They might give up because of that. What I'm fond of doing when I have other meditation teachers on the podcast is to ask them like, what's the most common thing that you hear as a meditation teacher? And more than once, the answer has been, I can't do it because I have too many thoughts or my mind is too busy. As if the goal of meditation is to like enter some sort of thoughtless Zen like state where you're like floating in a cloud or something. And haven't quite gotten there yet. In fact, I remember talking with David Nichtern, who is a teacher of mine and has been on the podcast a couple of times. And when we started to talk about this, he said, yeah, just be willing to not get anywhere in the first 20 years or so. So I hope that that's humorous to you and not discouraging, because the benefits of having a meditation practice are immense and totally worth it. And so I urge you to start if you're not. If you already are meditating, hopefully that these tips will help you out. And again, go to the school site. There's guided practices there. There's support of other like-minded practitioners and all kinds of cool stuff. It's at school.com/Blue Magic Alchemy. So yeah, I guess I would start there with what I started with a moment ago, which is, things that I tend to share with new meditators. The first one being that mindfulness-based meditation, which has a very long proven track record of being effective, it's been used for over 2,600 years at this point, pretty successfully. But that the point of mindfulness is not to clear the mind. It's not that we're trying to get rid of the thoughts. Mindfulness is simply connecting to the present as closely as we can without adding in anything else, without adding in judgment or bias or other thoughts or, anything to the experience. It's just being with your raw, naked experience, whatever that is. And so usually when we are coming to meditation, it can be quite a shock that to just sit with all of the thoughts and all of the experiences that we're usually distracting ourselves from, numbing, trying to get away from. But all you have to do is just be with what's there. So if you're upset, observe yourself being upset. If you're hungry, let yourself be hungry, right? Now, certainly at a certain point, you can decide to go get something to eat instead. But it's just about observing and being with the experience rather than reacting and responding to it. I often tell this story in my beginner classes about how I try to be very disciplined with my practice and, get up in the morning and first thing after I've taken care of my biological issues, like, getting water and removing the water from my body, is to just go and sit down and meditate. But this one day in particular, I decided to look at my phone and there was a text message from my brother and we got into a huge argument. And then I was like, well, shoot, I got to still do my meditation. I sat down and I pretty much spent 30 minutes or a good majority of the 30 minutes watching myself be angry at my brother. And the meditation was kind of like, God, what a dumbass. And then I would, okay, come back to the breath, let it go. And I would sit there for a couple breaths, and then a few breaths would go by, and it would be like, oh, God, what a dumbass. And that just kept repeating and repeating. So it's not that I went, well, gee, I can't meditate now because of what's happening. No, it was just, okay, this is what's happening in my experience. Another thing that I'm often suggesting is, in addition to having a regular sitting practice, I would invite you to work your way up to sitting for at least 20 to 30 minutes per day. And you don't have to do that at first. Start where you are. I'd much rather see you commit to 3 minutes or 5 minutes and be consistent with it until you can do more than to try to make yourself sit for 20 minutes and then give up after a few days because of how frustrating you feel. But in addition to that daily practice, which is important, is to give yourself micro breaks, micro moments, if you will, of mindfulness during your day. Now, that's going to look different for different people. For some people, I recommend setting some alarms on your phone. For instance, what would it be like to set 3 alarms, and when those alarms go off, you take a minute break to come back to your breath, to reset, to come back into the body, to just reconnect with your breathing in the same way that you do during your meditation practice. For other people that might be sitting in front of their computer all day and getting emails, and every time I suggest this, there's always the same experience. This is a very common frustration and, thing that people don't generally like. But instead of feeling that frustration when you get the email notification, what if you use that notification sound or, event, whatever the pop-up is, as an invitation to come back to your breath, to reconnect to the present? In a similar way that in some meditations we use a bell or a chime to open and close the space to bring ourselves into the present. And again, it could just be as simple as 3 mindful breaths, especially if you're getting a lot of emails. And I got this idea from the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who I was watching a lecture of his once, and he talked about in the business offices of their Dharma Center, Plum Village, where the people working in it are, monks and nuns, that they use the notification of the email or the ringing of the telephone as this invitation back to mindful awareness, in the same way that they use the gong, the bell, in their formal sitting practice. And I thought, gee, that's such a wonderful idea. And for me, there comes a point in time where simply thinking or hearing, say, like a bird chirping or a certain sound will bring you back to that mindfulness, because you'll notice the thought or the sound in the same way that you do during your formal practice. In other words, recognizing the thought will bring you back to the fact that your mind has wandered and you're not present and aware. And that itself will be the moment that brings you back to mindful presence and awareness, which is really cool. But that doesn't always happen at first. But a good preview of things that will happen if you can be consistent with your practice. The next tip that I have for you might make some people upset, but I'm just here to share what I've learned with you. So the next tip that I have for you is to stop doing guided meditations. Now, let me explain. You can still do guided meditations. And by guided meditations, I mean meditations where the There's somebody talking through the majority of the meditation. Also, meditations with music going through the whole thing. Just don't make it your main practice. In other words, you want your main mindfulness meditation practice to simply just be putting yourself in the right position, noticing your breath, and following your breath as a way to stay in the present. And you can use another focus instead of your breath, walking meditation or other things, but just have that simple practice as the main practice. People that use guided meditations primarily are not developing the same mindful awareness and benefits of practice as just these, following a simple mindfulness-based practice. A good analogy would be the guided meditations are like dessert, and the mindfulness-based simple practice is like your entree. So what happens if you eat dessert as your main meal all the time and you neglect the protein and, a healthy dinner, right? So there are some mindfulness-based guided meditations where there's a minimal amount of instruction. Those are great. Eventually, you may find yourself just wanting to do your own practice. Like you have done the guided experience long enough and many enough times that you know what to do, and you can follow those 3 simple steps of taking your seat and getting your body ready, connecting to your breathing, and then bringing yourself back to your breathing whenever you notice that you're distracted. So use those guided meditations or meditations with music as an extra, as a dessert, as something, that's not the main practice. Sorry if that bothered you. Next tip is to bring some sort of intention into your practice. Now, this is a way of really strengthening your practice, especially if you're new and you're trying to build the habit. One really powerful way of bringing intention into it is to create a sacred space. I'm hesitant to use the word altar because for some people, the religious connection to that can be kind of triggering. But just creating a space that's sacred to you where you do your practice. And it could be as simple as a candle or some incense, a picture, something that you found that has meaning. I'll share a picture of my altar, which has a lot of statues and pictures of teachers and meditation deities and stones, gems, things like that are special to me. But again, I've been practicing for a long time, so it's okay to keep it simple. Another way to bring intention into it is to have some sort of prayer or just moment of intention when you sit down for your practice. Now, as a Buddhist, it's very easy for me to do this. Whenever I sit down to meditate, one of the first things that I do after I light my candles and my incense is say the prayer, "All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path of liberation. May they experience happiness. May they be separated from suffering. May I help to guide them to the path of enlightenment." Right? And it gets more elaborate from there. There's lots of prayers that I say. You don't have to say that prayer. It could just be as simple as, may this practice bring me peace and calm or relaxation, or if you're into the brevity of it, just that the work that you're doing, may it benefit all sentient beings. You can make it your own. If you're already religious, offering a prayer of your choosing that makes sense to you. But these are little things that will help to increase your consistency. the last thing that I'll share in this episode is another sort of bitter pill to swallow. And that is to give up on expectations of anything happening. So many people, when they start to meditate, they're expecting some big results. And trust me, those moments will come. You will notice a change from practicing meditation. But expecting it right off the bat, or even just having expectations at all, is like going to the gym once and expecting to like come out looking swole or losing 20 pounds. In the beginning, you may not even notice a difference. In fact, in the beginning, you may feel more frustrated than when you began, because you just spent however amount of time that you sat with it, 10 minutes or so, just noticing how many thoughts you have and like how many there are and how wild that is. And I'm just here to remind you that those thoughts were always there. The mind is always like that. Most people are just not paying attention. So the difference is you started to pay attention. And just like a snow globe that's constantly being shook up, the mind also takes time to settle. Also, going into meditation with expectations of, thoughts clearing, or, oh, I want to relax, things like that, can be really frustrating, because here, let's just try a thought experiment right now. Don't think of a pink elephant. And what are you thinking about? I know exactly what you're thinking about. So going into meditation thinking this has to relax me is a good way to set yourself up for a very frustrating experience. And so if you can just give up any expectation, if you can connect to what the Zen Buddhists call beginner's mind, where you're not an expert, you're wiping the slate clean, you're starting fresh every breath. Every breath a new adventure, right? If you can practice like every breath is the first breath you ever took, you are well on your way. And if you can just show up and practice without expectation, that's when things will actually start to happen. And I know there's a balance, right? Like we need to get something out of the practice. If you need something, take any one of the practitioners that have been doing this for X number of years. Find someone that you feel inspired by. If it's not me, David Lynch, the Buddha, John Kabat-Zinn, LeBron James, any number of athletes or, actors or, famous people that use and practice meditation. And just get curious about, like, if all these people do it, maybe there's something here. And can I be curious and be open enough until I get it too? And I guarantee that it's going to happen. So just stay with it. Try to practice without expectation. That is a super pro tip that I got for you. So I sincerely hope that you found value and inspiration in this episode. If it struck a chord with you, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to leave a review or a rating for the show. It's a simple, cost-free way to show support and help the algorithm help us. It's the way that the world works these days. Also, sharing it with a friend was one of the coolest things that you could do. There's lots of people that need this type of work, meditation, breath work, and integrative wellness. So share it with someone. And if you haven't already, come join us at the Blue Magic Alchemy Collective at school.com, school.com/Blue Magic Alchemy. It's the home of Blue Magic Alchemy, all of my guided practices, as well as live breath work and meditation, other integrative live calls, courses, and the community and the message board all live there. So it's free to join. You should definitely come. If you sat through all this and you want to listen to that and you're like, man, I'm digging this. This guy might have something to say. Wait till you come to the school site. There's tons of stuff there. Remember that it's not about the method you choose or the pace at which you travel. The vital point is to consistently show up for yourself and practice. As the saying goes, it's not the destination, but the journey that truly matters. And I am honored to accompany you on yours. Please don't hesitate to reach out, connect, share your story, the successes and challenges alike. I'm just an email, DM, or review away. I also work one-on-one with clients online and in person in Tucson. So let's journey, grow, and transform together. Thanks again for tuning in. Until the next episode, keep exploring, keep growing, and above all, keep practicing, because that's the vital point.